So many times we don't even think about what is happening in this world. We don't think about things outside our little bubble. And then there are some who do. And David is one of those. This episode is an eye opener. This episode is a very important one, maybe the most important one that we've done. It's about discussion about Namibia and how David is contributing to his own country, to the youth of his country, and to what is happening in that country. And I hope you guys can really appreciate and enjoy David's conversation with us and what David is able to achieve, what he might be able to achieve in the future with all of our help. So yes, stick till the end and let's get on with it.
They need to put their mind in your mind, basically. Wait, I'm leaving Namibia. It took me 2 hours to get to work and 2 hours to get back. I don't even know if I'm gonna have my job. If I start this, am I taking food away from my family? Our staff are free. Do not hoard them. Do not hoard this information. Whatever you learn from us, go ahead and disseminate it to anybody. Somebody believed in me when I was just a young kid. If you would have asked me that, David, you're going to be in the US, I would have said it's impossible. As you know, a lot of our sisters miss out on school, especially in Africa, because of menstrual cycles. And we want to make sure that just because a young girl is having a menstrual cycle doesn't mean she has to miss out on school. Because the statistic right now is 1 out of 5 girls miss out on school. So if we have both men and women working to develop our country, that just gives us an extra boost as well. If you go to our website, you can send us an email at operationstheafricanconnection.org, and you can just let us know that you want to volunteer. Hi guys, David here. I'm the founder and president of the African Connection, which is a small nonprofit based in the US but operates in Namibia. We aim to help Namibian youth with their professional brands. When we say professional brands, we are talking about their resumes, CVs, cover letters, even their social media presence as well. So that's really our determination when it comes to helping out with the youth in Namibia.
Awesome. So when you talk about social media presence, do you mean making sure that they're not posting something that's harmful to their, professional careers and things like that?
Exactly. So if you think about us as the youth, right? One of the things that we want to have is our brand, right? And we talk about brands. You guys talk about brands as well, right? Nike, Apple, Adidas, those guys, when you think about them, there's a certain reputation that they have that automatically comes to your mind. And we look at it at a lens of we are brands as well. We are professional brands, right? When you think about Steve Jobs, he has a brand. When you think about Steve Jobs, you think about his professionalism, his accomplishments. So when we think about your social media presence in a branding perspective, we are talking about your LinkedIn, right? Usually on your resume, you put your social media. If you don't put your social media, companies usually look you up online. Now, do you want them to see your Facebook, or do you want to direct them to a point where you can showcase your true colors, who you are, your journey, and what you have accomplished? So we help them understand that when you put your footprint online, you want to make sure that it's your best foot in front, basically. So that's what we talk about majority of the time, yeah.
This takes me back again to our school days. I remember before college applications and things like that, a bunch of people used to change their name on social media and just put some random gibberish which sort of resembled their name. So just to avoid this, that if a college or a university or someone was looking them up on Facebook more specifically, they couldn't find them. And it's so relevant, even more so today, because you have so many more social media channels and there's so much more of us that is actually going on social media.
Exactly.
Fireballfunky@gmail.com.
Yeah, can't touch this, and you send this over to Apple. It represents who you are, right? And the problem with us as youth, especially when we are not presented with this type of level of professionalism, it's hard for us to understand from the lens of the employer what they are thinking, right? So we try to put the youth in the position of the employer. So when you apply to any type of position, right? If they are applying to the third Bistro, for example, they need to put their mind in your mind, basically. What is Bistro looking for? And what type of qualities is he asking? Because majority of the time when we apply for specific roles, we are thinking from the lens of us. Well, I think the company needs to give me this and give me this, give me that. But if we understand that it's a give and take, and most companies are looking to fill a gap in the company, and the question is, how can you as a candidate fill that gap? And how can you as a whole, right, as a brand, fulfill and present yourself in the best light? So I'll give you this. In Namibia, unemployment is roughly 50% and much higher when it comes to the youth. So you find that for one single job posting, you can end up having 20,000 people applying for that role. Now, if you are going to stand out from that 20,000, right, you want to be in a position where you're presenting yourself in the best light. So paying attention to the smallest of details, and that includes your social media presence, right? You holding alcohol, you inappropriately dressed in social media can be a reason for them to take you off. Because when you're reviewing 20,000 people, you're finding reasons to knock people off. And the smallest of things can get you knocked off. And it's the same thing when you're applying to major corporations such as Apple, Google, right? They are looking for reasons to knock people off because there's just a wide range of people. So paying attention to those small details are going to be key. And really, it's not just job opportunities, but scholarships as well, right? You are applying to it the best of the best. When you go apply to Harvard, everybody is good at mathematics. Everybody's good in science. The question is, what makes you stand apart from the rest? And we help our youth understand that, okay, you have to find those small details in you and what the gap that you can fill for that specific role, that specific company, basically.
To hear more stories like David's, please do subscribe so we can get more such people.
I want to roll it back. I want to rewind. I want to rewind to, David. I want to rewind to where David comes from. Why is David here and what's happening? It requires immense sacrifice, honestly, because if you're starting a non-profit and you're committing your life to helping the youth are not necessarily the finest payers, let's say, the finest way to make money. And that is a primary drive for so many people. So where does David come from and why is David here?
Oh, that's a great question. So I grew up in Windhoek, Namibia, a small country in southwest of Africa. We are basically, we have two deserts. We are tiny, only 2 million people in that big, vast country. Growing up, I grew up in what we call Katutura, which is a place that was named after, because we were both colonized by South Africa, by the British. So this place was designated for the blacks, and it was named after a place that we don't want to be. So it was a poor stricken, basically. So that's where I grew up. I found myself in high school, and I was thinking to myself, how can I better myself? Because the way the system is set up is we don't have enough schools. And because we don't have enough schools, so you in grade 10, you have, if you do your national exams, and if you fail, then you basically have to drop out of school and do a separate course which is called NAMCO. Or then basically you're dropped out of school. So you have to pass it to. If you don't pass, you're out of school. Basically, you can't repeat it. So I found myself in a position like a lot of people, a lot of us are failing. So I took myself to a position where I wanted to pass, and I dedicated my work to see how I can pass. And I was fortunate enough to actually pass. And once I passed, I realized that my high school wasn't the best, and I basically had to teach myself history, science, and I wanted to go to the upper schools, the schools in town, the nicer schools. So I asked my sister, can you help me get a bursary to go to the schools in town? And she found this ad for UWC. They were looking for students to go into grade 11. And in my mind, before you don't know this, but in my mind, when I applied for this UWC, I didn't even know what UWC was. And I was thinking that they were giving me a scholarship bursary to go to the schools in town.
You didn't know you were going to another country.
I didn't know I was going to another country because I've never left my city. I've never left. I didn't know what an airport was. I didn't know anything. So when they were asking me questions like, oh, how do you plan on changing and helping your country? So I'm there making my grand spiel, not knowing that they were going to, if I got it, I was going to leave my country. And one day I'm walking back from church. I get a call that, hey, David, you got accepted for UWC. We would like to give you the offer. And I'm like, yes, they're going to give me money to go to the nicer schools. And come to find out, we went for the dinner. They're like, okay, so you have been selected to go to Singapore. And three of my countrymates were sent to Europe. And I was like, wait, I'm leaving Namibia? I never left Namibia. I didn't know anything. So I thought in my head, I'm like, okay, if I'm leaving, that's fine. I'm going to have at least somebody to take me to Singapore. Come to find out, I'm 16. They're saying, okay, you have to fly on your own. And
God, and this is your first time flying.
As first time flying, never been on an airport, never seen an airport in my life. So I go to our airport, tiny airport. And then I go to South Africa. Big airport. I'm like, wow, this must be the biggest airport ever. Then I go to Dubai. I was like, what? This is even bigger. And then I went to Singapore's airport. I was like, what? Shell shock, culture shock. But a funny story. So I was so shell shocked. Flying from South Africa to Dubai, I didn't know how to recline my chair. So for about 10 hours, I flew right up, sitting right. And I was like, what? Yeah, luckily, because the guy next to me did it, but I was too scared to ask. So when I got to Dubai, it was so hot because we were late for the flight. It was so hot. The jet engine was so hot. I was like, oh my God, this is super, super hot. So when I go to Singapore, I was thinking, you know how humid Singapore is? So in my head, I'm like, wow, all those plane engines are so hot. They're making the country super, super hot. And that's how at that point, I didn't know anything about any other country. But I need to motivate myself. Again, different country, different environment. Then when I go to Singapore, really, I got my host family. The first few days was hard because I've never experienced any other culture such as that. You know, it's so different. So lots of food, lots of people everywhere. Very intimidating. But over the months, I sort of like acclimatized to the environment and the way they thought, which was totally different from what the youth in Namibia thought, right? And that's the same way I'm trying to change right now. The working mentality, the ability to change and mold yourself into somebody who can actually grow and make a difference, right? So got that opportunity, studied in Singapore for a while, and then I was fortunate enough to go to the US to study my undergrad. And then once I studied my undergrad, I was fortunate enough to get my job. I did get to do my OPT. Again, my OPT was very hard because, again, as you guys know, that when it comes to OPT, not a lot of companies want to hire somebody just for a year, because I didn't do science, I did business. So I was fortunate enough to get a job that was 2 hours away. It took me 2 hours to get to work and 2 hours to get back. So I took a bus, a train, a bus, and walked 2 miles to work every single day. I'll get to work before the sign is up, get to work after it has already gone down. Just because I know how important it is to grow, right? Again, as immigrants, we understand that hard work is something that's ingrained in us, and we understand the struggle. So I used to see a lot of people having cars, and I told myself, like, one day I'm gonna have my own car to transport me back and forth. And for me, I was able to get in that position where I could buy my car, and now I'm in a more okay position where I can support my family, I can support myself. But because even though I'm not rich or anything like that, I still feel like I need to give back. So when I did go back in 2019, because again, throughout my college year, I didn't have money to go back. So I was stuck in the US for the longest. Didn't get to see my family like for 5 years. So when I did go back, I found myself thinking, how can I give back to the community? And I told myself, what's the cheapest way for me to do it? And one of the skills that I did have is professional branding and helping people with the CVs, resumes, cover letters, understanding the ability to sell yourself. And I did that for Americans, and I told myself, why can't I do it for Namibians as well? So that's where it was born. So it's an online thing. We started the organization in 2020, and that was hard because we started the nonprofit in March 2020, and that was at the beginning of COVID. So I was asking myself, well, I don't even know if I'm gonna have my job. If I start this, am I taking food away from my family? And I told myself, you know what? This is something that I'm passionate about. It's something that I feel like is something that's worthy of my assistance, and I know it will pay off in the long run. If I die today, I know I've done something in the world, and I can always show people that even though you don't have much, you can always produce something. So I decided to go for it. Started a nonprofit. Started helping Namibians with their cover letters and CVs and all the overall branding. Everything was online basically, so the overhead was very cheap. The first year we were able to raise about maybe $200. Then the second year we were able to raise about $1,000, which we were able to start our second program, which was the internship program. Because like I mentioned, right, unemployment is very high, and we wanted to contribute our way to help out with at least the youth unemployment. So we started the internship program to give them skills. Because certain skills that we take for granted, Microsoft, sending email etiquette, basically Excel. So some of those concepts are so far-fetched. Students pay over $2,000 at uni to learn these basic Microsoft basics, basically things that I learned in high school. So we want to present that information to them as well. So we're fortunate enough to get the Microsoft grant, and then we got the Google grant as well. And we're using these to train and help them understand the professional space as well. So that's what the main aim. And then we're able to get assistance from NetSuite Oracle, and they provided us their accounting software. So we are implementing that into our internship program as well, so that they can learn the accounting software that's different from what they have in Namibia, right? So the accounting software that we have currently is both accounting and a CRM as well. So integrating those and helping them understand how to function and help them understand how to build an organization, basically. And then we also have sponsorship from Canva as well. And here's where we implement our marketing interns as well, so that they understand how to market, not just Facebook likes, because one thing that I learned is that a lot of people understand when they're on Facebook scrolling, but they don't understand the back end of things, how you generate those stuff, how do you keep engagement. So we're trying to help them out with that as well. So really our aim is just to create a place where they understand that they can grow. And majority of our staff as well, we always emphasize this to our participants, that our staff are free. Do not hoard them. Do not hoard this information. Whatever you learn from us, go ahead and disseminate it to anybody, right? We don't want you thinking that, okay, we taught you this, you don't have to tell anybody. We want the more people know about this technology, the more people understand how to use it, the better for the economy, right? Because the aim is for us to expand not just in Southern Africa, but the whole continent as a whole as well.
If you like the content, do hit the like button below so that we can reach out to more people and more people can hear about David's experiences and the African Connections message and the reach that African Connection is trying to have. The more people know about this, the more help they can provide Namibia as a country. So many things we all take for granted. And we just assume that the world around us, the little bubble that we live in, is the entirety of the world. So, the most basic example of this is, so we were in engineering college, right? And people around me were super smart. And all of these things with Microsoft and all of this is every day. Everybody knows how to do this. Anything and everything, like basic coding skill, everybody knows how to do this. Then you get out of engineering college, you meet people in real life, and you realize that, oh, they don't know how to do this. This is like so basic. And then you realize the value and like the powerful position it puts you in. Just realizing that you know all of this stuff, right? You being able to disseminate it to your community is so empowering for them. It is so important to learn these things because technology elevates everything, and technology just makes life so much better, so much easier, and produces so much value, even for your employers, even for anybody who's hiring you, or for yourself. You talk about, I set up my own platform online, and that was able to cut off a lot of overheads. That's why you were able to do it. I feel our podcast is the same way. We are able to set up this podcast with our phones and like very basic mic setups, or even just record on the phone, have a conversation with you sitting in Namibia or sitting in the US, and like I'm in Canada, he's in India. We like to emphasize it again and again, how empowering technology is and how it should be spread out and how it should be taught to the youth. And I think you're doing some brilliant work and some absolutely essential work, because this changes lives. This changes everything.
Yeah, and just to add to that, for myself, and this is more of like when people talk about the African continent, majority of the time we focus more on the agricultural aspect of things. But for me, I like to focus more on the technological side of things. Because when I think about our nonprofit, I see ourselves as more of a technology nonprofit, because we are trying to utilize all the resources that the world has, right? That's just going to advance us to a point where we can not only be at the same level as most developed country, but surpass them at some points as well. If we can build a nation full of the youth that understand the power of technology, it's key. And another thing that I can touch on is, so the reason why we started the nonprofit in the US is because there's so much resources here, so many resources that we can utilize, opposed to if we were to start it in Namibia, where it's more of an uphill climb. Here it's more of like a trickle down thing, where again, we were fortunate enough to always get the Microsoft, the Google, the Canva, the Oracle, and so much more that we can, if we're anywhere else, it would be nearly impossible. But here we can get that information, that technology, and put it where it's needed. Another thing that our participants have as an advantage is when they work for us, they have the added advantage of saying, I work for an American organization. So that puts them ahead as well. Because people don't understand that sometimes you just need somebody to believe in you. You need to open that door. And then most people will take that information and run with it. The same way I did. Somebody believed in me when I was just a young kid. If you would have asked me that, David, you're going to be in the US, I would have said it's impossible. First of all, I'm not smart. I'm not that bright, but somebody believed in me enough to say, okay, I think you can be something, and here's an opportunity. And that one opportunity, that one door, is leading to a multitude of more doors being open, and that's what we're hoping for. Our aim is definitely to help as many people, but as long as we can help one person, I think that's more than enough for us to say that we have done our job as an organization.
But David, that door was only opened because of your passion. So at the end of the day, you have to also see that each person who you are reaching out to, each person who you're giving that opportunity to, as long as they have that passion. I think we mentioned this in our episode with Pritesh also, that where there is a will, there is always a way, and persistence pays off. Because he was telling us all these different things that he has done in very unorthodox ways. He's like, I found ways around this, I found ways around that. So it's all a game of passion at the end of the day. And, the moment you have that fire within you to do something, even the smallest opportunity, like, dude, what you have done and what you are doing is so commendable, because you were given something out of your passion. Again, you wanted to go to that better school. You wanted to go to that, you wanted to study further, and you were given an opportunity, and now you're finding ways to give back. And that's just the beauty of the world, and how we have to find more people like this who are motivated to give back. Unfortunately, we come across a lot of people who are very greedy, and they're like, give us something and we're not going to give back. But yeah, it's about understanding and being grateful for what you're given, and being able to give back is just absolutely stunning.
Yeah, and just to touch on, even when Pratish was talking about all these ventures and stuff, right? Those are the people that we want, because being able to fail fast, when you fail, you learn. And that's the more core message that I got from him, that even just because you fail doesn't mean that's it. You take what you learn from and you keep on growing. Persistence and consistency is key to success. And that leads into my other program that we're trying to implement now, which is the mentorship program. Again, being a nonprofit in the US that serves outside is always hard, because we need to figure out how can we incorporate Americans as well, right? And have them learn. So now we're trying to launch our mentorship program, where we're taking youth in Namibia and getting mentors in the US to share their experiences, right? To share their skills, what made them, and how can they achieve, even if it's just the same students at different universities. There's so much cultural exchange that can be had, and there's so much knowledge that can be shared between the two, that it's definitely going to be beneficial on both sides. So that's what the other program that we're going to do. If we take somebody like Pritish, for example, all his skills, right? Partnering up with a mentee will be so greatly advantageous for not just him to learn and grow, but for the mentees as well, right? For him, the idea is the best way to learn is to teach. So for him, he'll be able to gain even more knowledge, and the mentee will be able to gain even more knowledge and absorb all of that. So, and then the other program that we also have is our girls' health. Again, as you know, a lot of our sisters miss out on school, especially in Africa, because of menstrual cycles. And we want to make sure that just because a young girl is having a menstrual cycle doesn't mean she has to miss out on school. Because the statistic right now is 1 out of 5 girls miss out on schools because of the menstrual cycle. And that's 5 days. Multiply that by 12. That really sets them up behind from the male counterpart. And right now it's winter. And that's even more reason for them to say, okay, it's winter. Why do you even need to go to school, right? And if we were to eliminate that, by giving them those supplies at the school directly to go to the counselors and say, okay, counselors, this is a pack just in case any girl needs it, because when I was in high school as well, I was young, I didn't know. I saw girls running out, I didn't understand, and I'm ashamed to say, also, these boys will make fun of them, and that's another stigma that we're trying to eliminate as well. Because empowering our girls will only allow us to have a greater workforce, So if we have both men and women working to develop our country, that just gives us an extra boost as well. So those are the type of programs that we have for the AC. These programs obviously occurred over the years, because our aim is always not to. This is one thing I learned, is that our aim is not to jump into something immediately. We take small bites, do small pilots, and grow with it. And if it succeeds, then we develop it. So we started off with our first program the first year, which was the resume and the cover letter, which was very easy because it was just myself. They send me the email, I review it for them, I work with them. Because our aim with the AC, really, just going back with our resume and cover letter, our aim is not to do their resumes or their cover letters. Our aim is to teach them how to do it. Is to show them, like, hey, these are the different points that you want to touch on. Because we always say the best person who knows you is you, right? You can give me your CV or resume. I can do it for you, but it won't be a true representation of you, But I can teach you how to find those pinpoints, right? How to analyze the job advertisement and actually point out and understand what the specific company wants, what the specific company needs, and you can utilize that. Or I can have you understand what a cover letter is. What are they looking for? What's the best form to sell yourself? One of the key things that I always explain to people don't understand, is that in your cover letter, if you're writing to a company, the idea is you want to align who you are to their mission statement, because that's who the company is, the company culture. If you can include that mission statement in your cover letter, that's a huge selling point, because you understand that their mission is to amplify environmental, and you can say, I align with this because growing up, I've always been about the environment. I've been planting trees, and I understand that climate change is important. If somebody's applying to the third Bistro, right? You guys have a mission, and see if they can align with your mission and your culture. That's a selling point, knowing that I don't have to teach our culture. It's already ingrained in them. Everything else comes secondary. You can't teach culture because it has to be already ingrained. And those are the things that we teach, right? Those simple, nuanced things, not a lot of people understand them. And if you understand who you are, you're able to find companies that are good for you, a good match for you as well. But I can go on a whole diatribe on the resumes, the cover letters, and understanding the nuances and understand the person itself, because we like to sit down with the individual and understand who they are, so that we can mold something for you, to can mold your career path as well. So for now, go ahead, sorry.
There was so much information in that segment, like little segment, so much. Like, I was welling up on after hearing about, young women missing out on school and being put behind because of a very, very natural thing that happens. And it has been solved in the developed countries. Such a problem has been solved already. And again, it doesn't come to mind that such a problem might still exist. So becoming aware of that by itself is a huge step, I think. And the other thing is, I would like to ask our community. It is a small community for now. It will grow, hopefully. But I would like to ask our community that if they wish to mentor some of the people in your group, or if they wish to help them, because there might be some founders in our community, and there might be some other people who are doing jobs in our community on a good scale, maybe in tech, maybe elsewhere. And if they want to become mentors, and if they wish to, mentee other people, is there like a process on your website? Is there some way they can become a part of your community to help them? Maybe even just online 1 hour video guidance might be of a lot of worth to some people.
Of course, yes. Again, if you go to our website, you can send us an email at operations.theafricanconnection.org, and you can just let us know that you want to volunteer. We have a whole step process. We have an onboarding for you to understand our culture as well. We have an outline for you to follow so that we can match you up with somebody who's fit for you as well. Because there are some people who are specific to specific industries. We don't want to match somebody who is in agriculture with somebody in tech. So we do have a platform right there. And if somebody wants to come and join, then we're always welcome. Again, we feel that the more the merrier. And anybody, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be from the US. You can be from anywhere. As long as you have the time and you're able to donate your time and your resources, we'll be more than grateful for that.
Awesome. So I think everyone listening in, everyone who is willing to help out, and these are students in Namibia, and if you have even an hour or two to spare over the weekend, however it works, please do get in touch. We're going to leave all the contact details in the description. They're going to be here on screen as well. We'll pop them up right here so that you guys can get in touch with David and the African Connection and help out some kids and maybe make a difference in their lives. And in the years to come, that they will be on some kind of podcast or some platform thanking you for your mentorship and all that you have given them. But yeah, I think this whole part about women's health and how girls are suffering because of this, it's a very developing country issue. Even in India, there is a lot of this whole thing. And I think it boils down to lack of education and lack of awareness, because I also remember being younger and, it was always such a thing, like there was such a stigma associated with it. There was such a, oh, you don't talk about this, or, oh, you don't mention this, etc., etc. But it's the part of their anatomy. That's how they work. So it's just, I think once you find out more about it, once you get aware of the whole, the whole science behind it, you understand that it's part of nature. It's part of how they work. It's how their bodies function. So it's just something that, we all have to accept and move on with. It's, we have to find ways to solve that problem for them.
I hope I can request this of you, but we would really appreciate if you share David's message across all of your socials. The wider we can spread David's message, the faster we can get Namibia to a place where it can stand toe-to-toe with all other countries. And as the world is progressing, hopefully we can build the world as one. So do share the message.
Yeah, and I also always say again, it's biology. It shouldn't be something that limits you. Again, as people in the world, we want to, especially in developing countries, we want to be at the forefront of technology growth. And for us to get there, we need everybody firing on all cylinders, and we are only as good as our weakest link. And if we can uplift them and eliminate these obstacles. If I were to just touch on something real quick, again, for us, the idea is we understand that, especially on the African continent, people such as myself, when I was growing up, you were faced with the option of either going to school or taking care of the cattle, taking care of the fields. And if we can eliminate that, and that's more of, if you take the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? If you can eliminate that bottom part so that you can focus on the second part, or if you can eliminate the food section of things and focus, so you can focus on something that actually helps you grow. And it's the same concept, really. Can we help girls focus on their education? Can we have the boys focus on their education, and so that they can actually grow instead of focusing on the menial stuff, the bottom section, because we are all striving to get to that self-realization aspect of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
And that has been put brilliantly. I think that's fundamentals of growth. only after you put like a very, very strong foundation on the house will you be able to build the house properly. Otherwise, you'll keep thinking my house is going to fall. What am I doing building it, right? And it's very eye-opening. Like I'm getting very emotional listening to all of this, because you don't see this side of the world, right? You're not, on a day-to-day basis, you're not aware of this side of the world, and how much even somebody like us can help these people. We would love to come in, give an hour to somebody, and hopefully provide them with some kind of value if we are capable. Let's go to the fact that you go down the road and you have decided, I have these skills and I wish to open a non-profit. Firstly, how do you come to the part where you decide, I'll open a non-profit and not a company? And secondly, how does that whole thing look? Because non-profits by themselves are so cloudy. You don't know how it works. You don't know how you open one. You don't know what happens. Do you make money ever? Do you pay yourself? How do you sustain yourself? Like, let's answer some of those questions for everybody.
Oh, that's a great question. So yeah, these are some of the things that I challenge that challenge me as well. So starting a nonprofit opposed to a for-profit business is you understanding that a nonprofit is not your company; it's a community's company. So a company such as Apple, you have ownership in that. For me, as a board member or the founder, technically I founded it, but I don't have ownership into that nonprofit. So that's the first distinction you want to have, is like nonprofit is more for the community, because with you have tax exempt status that you benefit from. You have all these other even NGOs, right? You have all these other benefits that you have that are supposed to benefit the community instead of an individual. So, and then after that, you want to understand that what's your cause. Well, almost when you guys were talking about Simon, the why aspect and why you're trying to do something. If you understand why, and if that why has a reason why, what's your impact? Where do you? For me, right? I come from Namibia, so that's how I am related to this problem, and this is where I can understand. Because if you don't have that relations to the problem or to that cause, it's hard for you to be motivated, because you're not truly affected by it. It's one of those you can empathize but not sympathize type of scenarios. So understanding that, and just understanding that even if you don't have anything, are you willing to go down with this ship? If you don't have anything tomorrow, are you still gonna work on this? It's almost the same concept as a for-profit business, but for nonprofit it's a little bit harder, because volunteering, you can't, when you employ somebody as a volunteer, you can't say, okay, you need to do this, because technically you're not paying them. Technically they are volunteering their time, so you have to understand all that logistics as well, and you have to understand the nonprofit sector as well as a whole first, which is why when we onboard new members, we have an orientation and we run them through the nonprofit sector, understanding the grant writing, understanding the fundraising, the board. Even though you're doing accounting, you're going to learn the marketing, the fundraising, the grant writing, because it's so important. I don't know if you know, the nonprofit sector, I think, is one of the top 5 biggest industries in the world. It's not a lot of people know that, but it's huge. And sometimes we don't really hear of it because it's not really in our face. But you have to take the time to learn the nonprofit sector before you even jump into it, because there's so many regulations, laws. Again, for me, because we are registered in the US as a board member, we cannot get paid. If you do have employees, they can get paid. As a nonprofit for us right now, we don't have any employees because we're very young. We don't have our cash flow. It's not even that high. Our budget is really like $10,000 a year, so it's really small, and that's why for us managing it, you have to be strategic. Limiting that overhead is going to be key. And one of the things that I always say is that you have to have at least a backup job to fund it at the beginning, because it takes capital to fund it. Yes, you want to have a nice cause, but you still need capital to work on it. But yeah, really understanding the cause and how you are related to that, not to give you that consistency and that discipline, right? To keep on going, because you're gonna find days where you don't have donors. The grant writing section requires a lot of time and energy. Getting funding is really hard. Getting funding from what you call in-kind donation, individual donation, corporate donations is also hard because you have to explain to them why and how it benefits them as well. So as long as you have a why and you understand, you can start one. But I always recommend that you learn the nonprofit sector first. To learn that, you can go to it's a site called Nonprofit Ready. They have like small certificates that are free, and they'll give you insights on the nonprofit sector so you kind of understand it before you dive into it. Because everybody has these grand ideas like, oh, I want to help the world, but up until you put in that work, it's way harder. I always say, for me right now, I work in logistics, and I find my job way easier. I mean, logistics, but a lot of people find my job hard because I deal with customs, importing to the US. I find that job way easier than the nonprofit sector, just because there's so many nuances, there's so many stuff that you have to do, trying to build something from the ground up is hard. Obviously, you guys understand that in itself, but having that opportunity not to fund, not having a flow of money to pay people, makes it even 100 times harder. So I hope I answered the question. I go on a diatribe sometimes.
That's all right, man. I think you answered the question really well. One of my questions leading off of that, what are some of your main overheads? What are, like you say, you have no employees. So, I mean, one would assume employees are the major overheads. So what are some of the overheads that you have?
Perfect question. So one of our CRM, customer retention management, that's one of our overhead. And that's going to be essential for any nonprofit, because that's how you engage with your donors, your corporate donors, individual donors, and that's how you market to people. So that's our biggest overhead, because CRMs are very expensive. And then our website as well.
We are noticing that slowly and surely. We are noticing that.
I know. Oh my God. But it's a much needed thing, because that's how you get out there. That's how you get your voice out there, and you attract as many and keep people as well. Customer retention is very hard. The website, again, for myself, I'm a big proponent of giving quality products, quality over everything. Because if I just start giving subpar, because I see sometimes a lot of nonprofits, their websites are kind of like janky and stuff like that. For us, we want to, when people come to our website, that's the front of our business. It has to be quality. So that's one of our biggest expenses. We have our business website, a premium. So we utilize that. Again, for us, we are not developers or coders. So we use normal Squarespace that user-friendly for us. So we use that. Another overhead really is our QuickBooks. What else? Our domain as well. We have domains that we use. And then our local filings as well that we use. What else? And then really for our programs, then just our normal programs like transportation, communication, advertising. Really, that's our overhead. Again, like I said, I like to keep it at a minimum, because, and I'm sure you guys, you're running a business, right? Once you get a business credit card, you feel like you're gonna swipe it up and down. For me, I'm not like that. I like to ensure that the money that's coming in is accounted for, especially with a nonprofit, and with the nonprofit, because we don't have a cash flow type of thing. We don't have a recurring incomes, because it's more of like you have to reach out, you have to get this, and people only fund specific projects. Not a lot of people fund operations and stuff. Hopefully we get there, And the fact that for us right now, we are mainly funded by our board, which is an advantage as well, because when we go to donors, we're going to tell them, hey, we believe in this so much that our board is solely funding this, and they believe in it. So once you come in, you understand that we are not just doing this because we feel like it's about the money, because we are putting in our capital throughout these years, and we are willing to keep on doing it up until we are successful, despite any lack of funding. So
let's get to the successful. So what does it mean that we are successful? Or like, let's say 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 1 year, whatever your duration is, where you will be like, okay, this, when I get here, I am successful. Or when it gets here, then the African connection is successful.
Okay. So for us, within the next 5 to 10 years, we hope to have a full-on team. We have a team that's at least a full staff of employees. And then within that will result meaning that we have programs that are not just impactful within the small range, but on a larger scale, right? Because now we have been capital and money to actually support organizations that to push out these programs. For our girls' health, for example, we are looking to impact girls in Namibia to where we are hoping to have a 10% decrease in school I can say the word absenteeism, basically, within the girls. If we can increase that within the next 2 to 3 years by 10%, that would be successful. And within the 5 years, we're hoping to get by 25%. And then with our internship program as well, we are hoping to have integrated more than at least 10 to 20 interns in our program, so that they understand and we can integrate them with companies, bigger companies, and match them up as well. If we can do that, so they can work with us and they can trust us, and we have a relationship with a bigger company and say, okay, we have trained this individual. If you want to match them up to be a part of your program as well, that's what I'll consider successful within the next 5 to 10 years.
What will it take?
For now, it will definitely take a lot of, first of all, capital, commitment, discipline. I'm a big discipline type of person, because again, motivation is considered a feeling, right? So sometimes you feel motivated, sometimes, but being disciplined is you being consistent, waking up when you know you don't want to go, going to the gym when you know you're not feeling well, but you still have to put in that work. It's us being on the same mission that we are, because things are not done overnight. The discipline for us as a team, as a unit, being organized as organization is key for us. That's why right now we're building that foundation. When we set up our programs, we like to be as detailed as possible. So when somebody comes out and asks us questions, we have already that information, having that data already for them to utilize. It's just having all that information already for them. It's what we're going to need to be successful within the next 5 to 10 years.
Get in the comments below to ask your questions to your founders.
Speaking of interns though, David, if you have anyone who is interested in video or audio editing, you can send them our way. We would love to train them, work with them, and it would help reduce our workload as well, since we're the only ones who do all of our work. There's no one else involved in the Thought Bistro. So yeah, anyone who is interested in video editing, audio editing, social media marketing, any of those.
I actually think that YouTube is a very good platform for people who do not have, who are unable to get a job, or places where unemployment is high. I feel like YouTube is a very, very good platform to come on and try something. Try to explore your passion there, right? And YouTube can also be monetized. So if you do start getting your community together, it is possible for somebody to start monetizing and start living a life off of YouTube as well, which is being done very, very actively in places like Canada, in the US, in India. This is happening a lot. So maybe that could be another kind of program that you guys could look into and maybe get some mentors on that front, getting some influencers on that front, because again, tech, right, really helps you to get going.
Yeah. Touching on that, really, as a nonprofit, we dive into tech a lot. We are looking into what everybody's talking about right now, which is AI, right? Artificial intelligence. And for me, as a small nonprofit leader, I know we talked about what to make us successful, and utilizing all the technology that we have before ChatGPT and the different AIs that just populated within the last couple of months. It was hard for me to find out resources. Now I can utilize that. One of the biggest industries or biggest jobs in the nonprofit sector is grant writing. And for a nonprofit such as ours, I'm always trying to figure out how can we best utilize. And a grant writer is so expensive. And with the help of AI, such as ChatGPT, they can really help small nonprofits such as ourselves compose and organize our organization and our structure. So for me, I've been utilizing it a lot when it comes to refining my proposals, refining my organizational structure as well. Because for most of this stuff, such as my wife is a grant writer, so I know how expensive they are. So getting somebody on board in that sense is always expensive. So for me to get a software that helps me, even with this new Google AI as well, asking them, hey, can you find me organization that solely fund girls' health? It takes the research, instead of taking a whole day researching, trying to figure out organizations, it can generate those companies within a couple of seconds. And within those seconds allows myself as a nonprofit founder that doesn't have a lot of capital to utilize that. Again, with bigger nonprofits, they don't need that because they have people who are researching. But for small nonprofits such as ourselves, we are utilizing that. Even Grammarly right now, we got a sponsorship from Grammarly. And what they do is they have the Grammarly Go. It's in beta form. So when I'm writing my proposals as well, because I'm not a grant writer, I'm the founder. But as a founder, you guys already know, you have to wear a lot of hats.
Yeah, you have to wear all the hats.
All the accounting, the marketing, the HR. So having that assistance is key for us. Again, for us, we are always on the forefront of trying to figure out how can we best organize our organization as much as we can.
It's again that pyramid, right? So if all of the redundancy is being taken care of, only then you can build like the upper end of the pyramid. Then you can focus on what you wish to do. So, for example, earlier in our podcast, when we wanted to write descriptions and make images like the thumbnails for ourselves, what we would do is we would use AI, because it takes so much time to write these things, right? On the other hand, it takes a lot of time to edit podcasts, edit the video of the podcast, make the audio look good, sound good, make it crisper. All of that is something that is within our skill set now. But like just writing that is a very tough job, and writing it so that YouTube picks it up, another platform will pick it up. It's called SEO organization. So if it is SEO optimized or not. So I think that ChatGPT on that front, or any of these general AIs on that front, is a big enabler of you being able to focus on what is important.
Exactly. Again, for us as an organization, how do we ensure that we survive with the times, right? We don't want to end up like Motorola, right? Where we laugh at the new technology. We want to embrace it and utilize it and use to our advantage, right? Obviously, there's some components that we don't want to use, but how can we look at the good and utilize that and help us grow. And that's where you see, as us as a young organization, we are determined to be a nonprofit that's a huge force within the next 5 to 10 years, 20 years. We want to be the only nonprofit that really makes a huge impact. And that's how much I believe in it, and the team believes in it as well. We can find before even our logo. Prior to that, we went to Fiverr, right? Went to Fiverr, asked somebody to help us out with designing it. But now with AI, you can cut that cost and get an image that best represents who you are as an organization, because you still have the control. I know some people are scared that you don't have control of it, but if you understand it and you have that control, you can utilize it for good as well, especially with the nonprofit sector. So we're hoping we can.
AI has gotten to the point where it's allowing you to focus on your strengths, whereas at the same time minimizing your weaknesses. Like, say, for example, if you look at content writing or like writing descriptions, I am not a creative person that way. I cannot draw for shit. I'm not very good at writing either. So it's just allowed, AI has just given me a bunch of text and it's like, okay, yeah, this is the basic idea of what you were going for. And now edit this. Edit, you can, because when you have a point to go off of, like when you're jumping off, if you have to jump into a swimming pool, when you're jumping off the ground, when you're jumping off the diving board, there's a major difference in the way you enter the swimming pool. So it's giving you that little diving board, that springboard to jump higher, to go to reach that point that, you can turn that little weakness that you have into more of a strength and, get that basic help that you can. Obviously, experts are still experts, but I think for people who want to start things on their own, who want to bootstrap things, it's amazing. And the number of tools we have now since November, now it's been 7 months since 30th of November, since ChatGPT came out and AI has become the new buzzword.
Yeah, and it really goes. I know people are also scared that it's going to take jobs, but for me, especially going back to the grant writer section, which is in the nonprofit sector, I don't think it's a threat, because you still need grant writers to review, to tailor it to your organization, to who you are, your mission, your brand. Because just typing in, write me a grant proposal for this cause, yes, it will spit out stuff, but it will be generic stuff. But it's a great place to start but when you have those experts who can tailor it and have them focus on more opportunities that you're going to achieve, it's really up to you. I know if we embrace it, if other organizations don't want to embrace it, again, you're going to find people like us who are more likely to embrace it and run with it as well.
I also think this generic thing is going to get outdated very quickly, and I think it's already outdated in the 7 months that AI has been around. I think today, if you just put things into whatever generator you're using and it just generates a bunch of text and you submit that, there is no way any company, any person accepts it, because it just, I think now where everyone is used to, okay, this is what AI sounds like. So you still have to put in that effort to tailor it, to edit it, to make sure it matches up to what you're saying. So we saw this firsthand with what we were doing in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, since we were talking so much about inspiration and, what got us here, David, is there any one person who's really inspired you, and how so, and who is that person?
Yes. Oh, that's a fantastic question. My teacher, my high school teacher, was in grade 10. For me, I was never a student. I was one of those kids in the back, on the back of the classroom, who was happy to get D's and C's, because it's fine. It's all that I'm going anyway. But he was because I would see my fellow classmates go up. I don't know if you guys did this, but we had an assembly where the kids would go up and get their awards, and we were in the back there just it's them again. But he, in grade 10, was able to inspire me, because he just believed in me, saying he even gave me the nickname, the geographer, because I was good in geography. So he helped me out, always motivated me and told me, hey, this guy is good. He's going to go places. I didn't even believe in myself. Like I said, I was a guy in the background. But that little motivation helped me. He always boasted me in front of everybody. I don't know what he saw in me, to be honest. But we're still in contact right now. He's our advisor for the nonprofit, actually. Just the amount of inspiration that he has given me, not just what he told me, but his actions as well. While he was a teacher, he was studying for his law degree as well. Seeing that in action also motivated myself that, hey, just because I don't have much doesn't mean I'm nothing. Because what am I saying? So so I did my grade 1, and then in grade 2 I failed grade 2 actually. I failed grade 2, and I was behind. And that just demotivated me as well. So when I got to grade 10, and he looked into me and said, okay, you can do it, because he also wrote my motivational letter to the UWC committee as well. So yeah, he is just one of those guys who has always inspired me, and he's still inspiring me today. So I go back to our school, to my high school, and we donate the pads. That's where I have the biggest impact. My high school, that's where I help out. He helps coordinate everything as well for me. So he's my biggest inspiration.
Again, it shows the importance of a mentor, right? Again, it shows the importance of somebody who can guide you, who can impact you into doing something as incredible as you are. I think I've had a lot of eye-opening moments in our conversation, and I've had like a lot of fun and a lot of inspiration after listening to you talk and after listening to your story and the impact that you're trying to bring. So we have a culture on our podcast, and you are an avid listener, so you might be aware.
Yes.
We like to ask this one last question, right? And this one last question, you have one line to answer. Let us assume that our podcast is being heard by everybody on this planet right now. Everybody. What is the one line that you would like to say?
Just because something is hard doesn't mean it's impossible.